Warning: this video includes shocking images that may be disturbing in nature to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
So yeah, we got Extreme Rules coming up. Extreme Rules used to be one of my favorite pay-per-views. I've been there I think one or two times, but there's something that's been missing lately. Extreme Rules used to have some really brutal freaking matches. Nowadays, you can't do any blood, you can't do any chair shots to the head, you can't really be as violent as you used to be. So when I'm looking for just a little bit of stress relief, I watch wrestlers beat the shit out of each other. And today, we're going to be discussing some matches that were probably you wouldn't see them today. That's what makes them so good, because they were back then when there were really no strings attached and you could just beat the shit out of each other. Yeah, let's talk about some WWE most brutal matches. Greetings, everybody. I am your cult personality, Toon Critic, and who do I have here with me today?
Nikki VMLP,
DJ Calcos,
and new for our cast.
I am Chris Acharya. I play video games for the most part.
Watches wrestling.
Yes.
That's all the
years.
That's all the qualifications we need over here.
Acharky is going to be joining us for this little discussion of some brutal matches. So how about we just get things started right off the bat with our first match, and I believe that is for Nikki.
We finally get to do it. I finally get to talk about my favorite match ever in anything, in WWE or any other promotion. Okay, I've mentioned this match a couple of times, but I've never really gotten to go into real detail about it. I'm talking about John Cena versus Rob Van Dam, One Night Stand 2006. Oh, this is the good stuff. Backstory real quick. WrestleMania 22. Van Dam becomes the second Money in the Bank champion. No, not champion. He just wins Money in the Bank. He defends it once against Shelton Benjamin, wins the Intercontinental title in the process, loses it in a kind of stupid match where both the Intercontinental and the World title was on the line, in which case, why the fuck would anybody ever try to pin the Intercontinental title? But whatever, it happened anyway. But then, I believe, right around mid-May, Cena just beat, I want to say it was Chris Masters. He's in the ring, he's got the title, woo! Van Dam's music hits, he walks down to the ring and announces that he's going to cash in his Money in the Bank at ECW's One Night Stand.
People do that? People just say, oh, hey, I'm just going to do the thing and just cash it in now. Oh, I'm surprised RVD didn't just run down to the ring and do it to Cena when he was down. RVD apparently has standards.
Yeah, good guy RVD actually tells you when he's going to cash in. But yeah, that was kind of a weird thing, because Edge had spent like the last year waiting for the right moment when the champion was like completely dead, and he eventually found it at New Year's Revolution and won the world title there. But yes, Van Dam actually picked his spot and told Cena about it, but he still made it to where it benefited Van Dam by putting it in not only an Extreme Rules match, but also to basically give himself the home field advantage by doing it at One Night Stand in front of the ravenous ECW crowd. Like, it wasn't in Philly, it was in, I think the Hammerstein Ballroom's in New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's still a large ECW crowd in New York, and you could feel it. Like, it was quite a crowd.
Die, Cena, die. Die, Cena, die.
The infamy of the ECW audiences, which something I kind of took in through osmosis, watching clips from Botchamania, as well as like hearing stories of like when you hear promoters talk about ECW, they never really seem too favorable about it. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, hear guys like Jim Cornette talk about ECW and everything, as well as like, you know, some of the other guys, and they talk about ECW. It's just this thing of like, you know, WWF, like this is where legends are made and like real entertainers come to. ECW, what the fuck are they doing? And it's like, these are just guys beating the shit out of each other. Like, and the audience eats it up.
Yeah, first of all, Mr. Cornette, I've got a fucking Eddie Guerrero Dean Malenko match that might interest you, but that's not important. But
Now, the great thing about... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to quickly mention that one famous sign that came out of that match. If Cena wins, we riot.
The great thing about the ECW crowd, they mean what they say. They are very ravenous. They are very, very vocal, very outspoken crowd. And I think that a perfect example of that was in this match. I have not seen a crowd so vehemently against Cena since, like, I think Unforgiven 2006 when he was in Canada and Edge's home turf. That was nuts because everybody fucking hated Cena back then, and they still do to this day. It's nuts.
It also reminds me of the CM Punk not too long after he did his whole pipe bomb bit, and they were in CM Punk's hometown. And at the time, the whole storyline was like CM Punk's supposed to be the a-hole, but then he has his pipe bomb. So they go to his hometown, and John Cena, the guy who's the current champion that you're supposed to be rooting for, gets booed as all shit. Like,
yeah.
We've talked about that rivalry many times, and they had CM Punk win on purpose. That was planned. They knew that would happen, and that was planned from the very beginning. You don't pull off an angle like that with an audible. But with RVD at One Night Stand, he ends up winning the championship. And of course, Rob Van Dam was in his second over period. His first over period was when he moved to WWE in 2001. This was like his second win. So he wins the championship, and they plan on having him hold the sucker for quite a while until he drops it to another person. But then he got high and drove.
I was
and the
gonna
cops
be
stopped
the ECW champ, but I got high.
I was gonna hold the belt for a while, but I got high. And now I've gotta give it up, and I know why.
Why, man?
Because I got high, because I got high, because I got high. La-da-da-da-da. You know what's great about that, though?
Seriously?
You know what's
Yes.
great about that, though, is that Rob Van Dam now has a prescription card, so he can smoke whenever and wherever he wants. Pretty much. You know, of course, there are laws, but that's the sucky part about this match. Rob Van Dam finally becomes the WWE champion. Everything is great because everybody loves the guy. And then he fucked up. Like, you can't make excuses for this. He fucked up. And he lost the championship because he fucked up.
He fucked up hard.
Proof that wrestling is a sport when athletes still do stupid shit.
Yeah. But yeah, that was one of the three big things that I think led to ECW's spiral, or like WWECW's spiral into irrelevance. Like, if Rob Van Dam wouldn't have dropped the title, if Kurt Angle would have stayed with ECW for more than 3 freaking months, and if Chris Benoit hadn't died like less than 2 months into his ECW run, it might have been different. We might still have WWECW. But like, the only star that they ended up keeping was CM Punk and arguably Christian for a while. And it just got to the point where nobody gave a shit. And yeah.
To focus on this match, though, I think what really, other than the crowd, what I really enjoyed is that this is probably some of RVD's best work. He does really good getting back into his usual environment. He does the whole usual thing. He hits a beautiful 5-star. And the finish is what not a lot of people talk about. It looks like Cena is, going to win, but then a guy in a fucking trench coat and motorcycle helmet shows up, spears Cena through a table, takes it off. Holy shit, it's Edge! And then RVD hits the 5-star. There's no referee. Heyman runs in. He does the 1, 2, 3, and then you have RVD at the highest point Wow, I chose bad words. At the best point possible in his career, holding the WWE and ECW championships at the same time.
Up in the crowd. He was up in the crowd. All of his fans were around him. His wife was right next to him. Like, it was just a great moment. And like, there was also some pretty crazy spots in that match, like the Van Dam, or his big Van Daminator, when he was kind of just like, he ran around in the circle and then pow, face right to the chair with the boot. And like, also kind of a interesting little tidbit, for this pay-per-view, and I think for the One Night Stand 05 as well, they brought back the old metal ring barrier. Like, they didn't have the cushioned barrier like they did before and still have today. They had just the metal bar, and they used it to their advantage quite well. Like, people bounced off of it. They got thrown into it. I think at one point, somebody got dropped from the top onto the metal barrier, which, if I remember that right, that was... like, it's not the most extreme match of all time, but there was plenty of extreme moments, and the crowd helped supplement the extreminess of it.
Yeah, I think this match deserves to be on here, if anything, for how extreme the crowd got. And we don't see that often. And when's the last time we saw that? Like, that extreme? Like, we've seen some pretty, like, vocal and harsh crowds, but nothing like this. Nothing where they want to say, like, die, Cena, die.
Yeah, this crowd made the 2015 Royal Rumble crowd look like the 2015 Fastlane crowd.
Oh.
Something else I like about Rob Van Dam is, like, you know, he is a very big dude. You know, he may not be the biggest dude you see, but as huge as he is, and the fact that he still does like a lot of like high flying stuff that you would mostly see, you know, some of the skinnier kind of more athletic dudes pull off, like backflips and all kinds of stuff. And Rob Van Dam, like, he could be all over the place if he wanted to, and just flying off whatever he wanted to.
He's got them educated feet. Educated feet, model.
Rob Van Dam versus John Cena at One Night Stand 2006. The crowd stole the show. Rob Van Dam took it back. Then the crowd took it, and then Cena held it up off for like 5 seconds, and then Rob Van Dam took it back. Great match, very hardcore, a bit unorthodox, but it still belongs on this list.
By the way, one of my favorite parts of that was before the match started, when Cena got into the ring, threw his shirt into the crowd, and they promptly throw it right back at him. And Cena's just like, wait, what? And so he picks it up, throws it in again, right back to him. Just fuck off, Cena. We don't want your shitty-ass merch.
Now, this is a match that I have been dying to talk about, and I don't know if I have before. I could possibly have mentioned this before, but okay, let me take you to WrestleMania 22. Haven't we been here like multiple times? WrestleMania 22. You should know what I'm talking about. You have, on one hand, you have the hardcore legend, Mick Foley. We're already off to a good start. Guy has been through hell and back, and here is probably one of his best WrestleMania matches ever. And on the other hand, you have Edge, the rated R superstar, the friggin' master of the tables, ladders, and chairs match. What happens when you put these two together in a hardcore match? Holy shit.
Amazingness.
I remember seeing this live. I was like up in like the fucking cheap seats or whatever, but seeing it like on the monitor and seeing it down below, man, this is one of the most brutal matches that I've ever gotten to see. I think it is the most brutal match I've ever got to see. You have all of Mick Foley's trademarks, you know, the barbed wire baseball bat, thumbtacks, and even him hiding barbed wire underneath his shirt. So when Edge tries to do a spear, he like fucking flinches and falls on the ground, and his shoulder's all bloody and shit. You have all these great things, and the way they built up to this too was pretty interesting. Edge was just like, "Oh, you're a softie, you're like a fucking Muppet now," and Foley's like, "Oh yeah, bitch, try me." And yeah, I'll probably gush about this a lot. So yeah, this is a really great hardcore match. I don't know if you guys like it or not. Wow, I can't fucking talk.
I can't. I watched it once. I watched the match once because I was curious. I will never watch it again.
Really?
Wow.
I don't know why, because I've seen plenty of matches that are possibly more extreme than this one, but this match was hard to watch, probably because it was at that time when Mick Foley was wrestling and he shouldn't have been. So every single bump that he takes is hard to watch, especially now that Daniel Bryan is getting health problems again. It makes like all of his matches really hard to watch because you know that you could watch a career end in the blink of an eye. And this match is like, You could watch a life end at the blink of an eye. I don't like the fact that he's wrestling here. I don't like that. And that's what makes the match so hardcore to me. It's not Edge taking the thumbtacks. It's not all of the weapons that they used. And of course, it's not the really, 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 really famous spot where Edge spears Foley onto a flaming table. It's the fact that Foley is there in the first place. That's why it's so hard for me to watch it.
I mean, and at that time, Foley's got to be what, like in his 40s or
late 40s, I think.
Oh, it has nothing to do with his age. It has to do with the fact that he retired for a goddamn reason.
It partly had to do with his age. This is part of it, but yeah. Like, especially given how, like, there are 100 extreme matches that we could have put that Mick Foley was in that look like they should have been career. Hell, we could have probably made this entire list with Mick Foley, kind of like how we did with Jeff Hardy in the ladder matches. Like
that would have been great if we had inadvertently done it again. We can just slap Foley all over us again.
Oh, that would have been hilarious. But yeah, like he's just been in so much heavy shit that after a certain point, any match that he was in just got to the point where it was like, oh god, this is going to be the one, this is going to be, oh, okay, he survived. No, not this one, not this one. Oh, okay, he's still alive. It's nuts that he kept going for as long as he did. And especially to face somebody who was basically in his prime at that time. Like Edge back in 2006, I think was when 22 was. Like he had just won the world title. I think he had lost it not long after that, but he was basically entering his prime. And yeah, it just felt like it was way too late in the career for Foley to be doing a lot of this shit.
Way too late.
Also, barbed wire Sacco.
Also, breaking of barbed wire on the face.
Also, spearing Mick Foley through a motherfucking table.
On fire!
You can't top that. That there is a fucking iconic moment for WrestleMania. At least Foley and Edge made their WrestleMania moments there.
I am so fucking glad that Joey Styles was calling that.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I am so
that.
fucking glad.
I miss Joey Styles.
Everybody misses Joey Styles. Right next to Matt Stryker and JR, he's the greatest commentator the business has ever known.
Yeah,
hey, we got Lucha Underground with Matt Stryker.
Yeah, thank God. And we have Wrestle Kingdom 9 with JR. By the way, if you've never seen Wrestle Kingdom 9, go watch it if you have 4 hours to kill. It's a good time.
I still need to watch Wrestle Kingdom 9. I've heard nothing but good things about Wrestle Kingdom 9.
I still like to hear Lawler commentate because of how childish he sounds sometimes.
Puppies!
Puppies! Puppies!
Oh,
Puppies! Keyboard smash!
I still think that Lawler needs to go back to being he needs to be the heel commentator. Like, him being a face and pervy, weird. Makes it feel like I'm watching, like, a weird uncle do commentary.
Yeah.
Like, heel pervy fits with the character.
Great thing I love about this match is that it's like a time capsule. You can open this up and you can remind yourself that 2006 was a great year for some bloody, brutal matches. And then it just kind of goes down and down, and maybe goes up again, and then down and down until it just we don't see it.
Yeah, and I can't help but feel sorry for Edge, because Edge seems like somebody, like, if he still had the ability to, he probably would keep wrestling. Although, I mean, he's lucky the fact that yes, he still gets to walk.
Yeah,
but
I'm glad that he was able to. I'm at least glad he was able to retire without being in a wheelchair, because I'm pretty sure this match maybe took off a few months or two off his career.
Yeah, he came away from this match better than Foley did. I'll say that.
Also, just real talk. I haven't shared this really, but I know what it's like to hit on thumbtacks. I made sounds that I did not think were possible in my vocal cords. I don't know how they do it, because with seeing Edge just go right on to that, it made me cringe, because I'm just like, yeah, I had a much worse reaction to it than that, but okay.
Yeah, like, honestly, WrestleMania 22 might have had the best card of any pay-per-view. Like, you had the Edge Foley match, you had Cena and Triple H had a pretty good match, you had Van Dam winning Money in the Bank. There was a bunch of really freaking good matches. Like, if one of the worst matches on a WrestleMania card is the Undertaker in a casket match,
Hey, Boogeyman versus Booker T and Sharmell.
Oh yeah, we can't forget about that. That was bad.
it had a lot of good stuff. Like,
That was bad.
Bad.
I keep
Bad.
forgetting- keep
0
forgetting that-
stars. 0.
I keep forgetting that Boogeyman was a thing.
I wish that it wasn't a thing. Anyway, next match.
I wish I could forget that it was a thing. All right, I was a SmackDown guy when he debuted. Oh, they could have done so much with him, but they didn't.
How many people can we say that about?
Anybody remember Kazarni?
No.
No.
Exactly.
About Cabo.
Okay, next match. This match is on this list, but it's an anomaly because the other 3 matches on this, you look at them and they are hardcore matches through and through. But this match is different. This match was not supposed to be hardcore, but I'm including this on my list 10% because it has Eddie Guerrero in it, and 90% because it features the absolute worst blade job in the history of wrestling. I don't know how anybody can argue against this blade job being the worst possible blade job ever in
Are
wrestling.
you sure?
I am
I would-
absolutely sure. Eddie Guerrero versus John Bradshaw Layfield for the WWE Championship at Judgment Day 2004.
I would argue, this is going to be my second pick. I would argue that John Cena versus JBL Judgment Day 2005 with Cena probably had the worst blade job ever.
No way. No way. And I'll get to that later. But this match started... It had a great feud going on that carried on over to the next pay-per-view where JBL won the championship. I don't remember the name. It was that stupid as fuck bull rope match.
Oh, God. He had to lose it like that. I mean, Eddie should have lost it by a regular pinfall in a clean match. Not like that.
Yeah. Anyway, this match started off as you would expect. These two guys fucking hate each other because reasons. Specifically that Eddie Guerrero is Mexican, and JBL is a dick. So, this match gets underway. It's all very typical ruthless aggression stuff. They constantly go out of the ring. There's announce table bumps. Now, what happens is Eddie Guerrero throws JBL over the announce table, the English one, the one with Taz and Michael Cole back when they could commentate. And, it disconnects their microphones because there's no commentary after this. So Eddie Guerrero goes on to wail more on JBL. JBL hits him in the skull with a chair. Eddie goes down, does the blade job, turns around, and you can't see his face anymore. It is covered in his own blood. You can see it spurt out. It doesn't leak. It spurts. He cut a very vital vein in this match. And you know that he did because JBL now starts beating up on Eddie Guerrero. And if Eddie Guerrero stays in one spot for more than 3 seconds, there's a pool of blood going on. He bleeds like a stuck pig. You can see from the images that I'm displaying on the screen right now. By the way, the discretion warning that I'm talking about was because of this match.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, look at that.
Okay.
You guys aren't even looking at the images.
You can pretend.
Well, for reference, I've been looking up videos of these matches as you're talking about them to kind of refresh myself. I'm seeing this unfold. Dear God. Oh my God. That's just...
I've seen plenty of extreme and hardcore matches. This is the worst blade job. This is awful. Like, it's not horrifying to me. It's just fascinating how one man can bleed that much after just a cut to the forehead. This is awful. And by the end of the match, it looks like he's wearing a red mask because the blood is starting to harden to his face. And it's not just little splotches here and there. It's his entire fucking head is red. A dark, blood-stained red. and it's disgusting.
It's been a little while
sorry.
since I've seen how this match went. How did the announcers react once they finally got their microphones back working?
They wouldn't stop talking about it. Like I'm
blame
dead
'em?
serious. From the time that he bladed to the time the match ended, they would not stop talking about it.
Well, it was kind
Like-
of an important thing, so I
Like,
can't blame
like the poor bastard can't even open his eyes. That's just
I'd have to imagine that the ending of the match was hastened after that, because like at a certain point JBL's got to go, oh fuck this, end it now.
That's the funny thing. The pay-per-view ended on time. It wasn't hastened. From the blade job to the time the match finished was like, what was it? Like 12, 15 minutes?
God
Give or take.
damn.
They
Guerrero's
went
a fucking trooper.
They went on schedule for this. This is so ridiculous. So bad. And I know, I get it. The Cena blade job at Judgment Day 2005 was bad. It was very bad. Cena bleeds like a fucking champ. But this is way worse, in my opinion. Way worse.
I find it funny that JBL does like back-to-back Judgment Days for the WWE Championship, and they are both extremely bloody matches. I just find that interesting how that it's just like it's back-to-back, and both are almost like I wouldn't say almost identical, but I will give Eddie versus JBL more credit because it told a better story, I think. Cena versus JBL at Judgment Day 2005 also told a great story, but I think Eddie's had a little bit more heart to it, and Cena versus JBL's was just very, very violent.
And the funny part about this, though, if the cut wasn't as bad as it was, I'm pretty certain this match would have been forgotten. Without a doubt. Like, it's why I remember this match so much. Yeah, I'm a big Eddie Guerrero fan, but I would have forgotten this match if the cut wasn't so bad. I cannot stress this enough. It is the worst blade job in wrestling history.
like considering some of the jobs I work at and the various training you get of like how to handle a cut. It can be considered a biohazard. You know, you gotta throw shit away. And the fact that it's like Eddie's just getting his blood like all over that ring and like on the ropes and on JBL, of course. And I'm sure, oh god, like I have to wonder what JBL is just thinking of. Just like, man, I really hope I don't get too much of that on me. Like,
Well, I think that was the last match of the pay-per-view, so luckily nobody else had to come out and like wrestle in that blood-stained ring. So
It was.
I don't
It was
really
the main
want to
event.
wrestle in that ring.
Yeah, it was the main event.
yeah, so they probably burnt the ring after it was done, or maybe it's in the WWE Hall of Fame somewhere. We don't know.
Anyway, this match was crazy brutal. Yeah. Viewer discretion. In
Oh
case
shit.
Yeah. To be fair, I wasn't actually looking at the pictures. I was just being a doof.
I have pictures. You'll see them when the video goes up.
I was looking them up, and even then, I'm just like, fuck.
yep. No, you see it streaming and like when it first happens, he can't even open his eyes. It's just holy
It's
shit.
nuts.
All right,
Anyway.
final match.
So before I get into this, yeah, I've like I kind of grew up a bit on wrestling for for the most part. Like back like I was a child of the 80s, and going into the 90s, we didn't really have the ability to watch it until we ended up getting like cable TV channels. And throughout like middle school and high school, I'd hear kids talking about like Stone Cold and how awesome he is. Like, I have no idea who these people are. And then it's like, what's this suck it thing that everybody's doing? I don't get this. And like they're doing like the whole cross hand signs and all that shit. And then it's like, oh, okay, so this is what Degeneration X is. Okay, got it. And then watching all this other stuff. And I watched that up until maybe 2000, until like I was just in this point in high school. I was like, this is kind of silly now. And then I stopped watching it. And in recent, like last month, I started watching Raw again, not too long before WrestleMania 31. And watching it again, it's almost like, it's like putting on an old suit you haven't worn in a while. You kind of feel like you never left. Because granted, there are some changes. Obviously, they're not as raunchy as they used to be in the quote-unquote Attitude Era, as it's usually called. And, of course, WCW is no longer a thing. Because that was still around when I stopped.
Oh, I can't imagine watching 2000s era WCW. That must have been
Oh,
fun.
man. It was pretty freaking ridiculous.
RoboCop with the save.
Oh God.
WCW
Well,
did some pretty ridiculous things.
yeah, they did.
That's a
they
future
certainly
video
did.
topic.
Most
Um,
stupid things that WCW's ever done.
Most viewed video.
Santa
Oh,
Claus is in the ring. Santa Claus is in the ring.
But it's like, and the reason I kind of feel like everything just feels so familiar, it's like you still have like these caricatures that seem like they've been doing this shit for decades. You know, it's like Rusev is like the modern day fucking Iron Sheik, and just, you know, John Cena, and everybody has made that comparison to them and Hulk Hogan and whoever you want to, whatever face at the time. You know, there's just like all kinds of crazy stuff, and like, you know, you got the luchadors and like, and how stereotypical anybody can be. It's like, hey, are you a specific ethnicity? Let's play the shit out of that. And you know, I think there is a couple of dudes. They're just like the Los Matadores. I laughed when I first saw them, and that little guy with like the bullhead stuff on. Yeah. Like I started dying. I was like, what? It's like this. Oh man.
Let's get to the match, though. Let's get to your match.
Yes. I feel almost kind of cliche bringing this up, because everybody knows what this is. This was Undertaker versus Mick Foley, aka Mankind at the time, at the King of the Ring event in 1998. We know this for a couple of reasons. Because Undertaker could have almost swore he thought he almost killed Mick when he first throws him up off that Hell in a Cell. And the Hell in a Cell, I don't know if they still do this. I'm sure they do. I mean, it's a 16-foot cage.
I think
And
it's
they-
taller
It's actually
now.
it's taller now. It's around 28 feet. It's much
Really?
much. It is much bigger now.
Yeah, they kind of
Yeah.
went nuts with it.
But at the time it was a 16-foot cage, and it wasn't like, you know, the cage, you know, cage match. You know, this was just, it was a box with a bunch of chain link fence over it, and that was it. And according to, like, because aside from the match itself, like, I looked at some interviews and stuff of this, it's the first thing that happens, they start the match climbing at the top of the damn thing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, let's do it up here, despite how freaking flimsy that thing is. You know,
And
this is not made.
Mick
go
later
ahead.
went on to say that, like, apparently he's afraid of heights. Oh, the poor bastard.
I wonder why.
No, before
Because,
he was afraid of heights before he climbed the cage.
well, and
Whoops.
some of the things like I wish I could see are like because, you know, we all know how wrestling works and they improvise and all this stuff, and of course, like, the dudes that are going to go into this, you know, they kind of talk over like, what do they plan on doing. I wish I could hear some of the conversations that they have, like this one perhaps, because the first thing that happens, they both climb up to the top of the thing, 16 feet high. Undertaker throws Mick off the top of this thing, 16-foot fall onto the Spanish announcer's table. And as Undertaker himself kind of described it, he felt like time had stopped, because he was worried he, honest to God, killed him. A lot of people were. You know, Terry Funk comes out there and all these guys, and Mick is just laying there. You see his legs moving, and yeah, that was like, and the thing was, they said they planned that.
Yeah, that was one of two planned spots. Of course, the second spot that happened was not planned, but
Nope.
it's funny
Nope.
because you mention that you wonder if they killed Mick Foley. They soon discovered that Mick Foley is still alive, miraculously, and the whole time they're apologizing because they think Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler think the match is over. They think that it stopped there because Mick was unable to continue. So they raise the Hell in a Cell, the cell a little
While
bit.
he's still standing on it.
Yeah, they raise it a little bit so they can maneuver Mick around it, and then they lower it again. Undertaker's about to come on down, and then Mick Foley gets out of the seat immediately.
He gets
After
off the
he
stretcher.
assesses his condition, goes back up. And at this point, Mick said in an interview that he thought the worst of it was over. He was going to go back up, fight his way back down, finally enter the cell, and then do the other planned spot and the match would be over. No.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
No. He ended up falling off through the cell, down onto the mat, and that's not the worst thing that could have happened. That happens. That happens. He hits the mat, but the chair from the top from earlier comes down and hits him in the mouth, knocking him out. And this wasn't a quick concussion. This was KO. You win. That was
Insert
it.
coin to continue.
It was a fucking Street Fighter knockout.
He really was not there for a while after that happened. And
even after he got back up, he was still seeing stars. Like I remember seeing this in the Monday Night War documentary. Like after that happened, he was like seeing stars for even after he woke up and was just completely almost out of it for the rest of the match.
Yeah, and he went on, I mean, Mick Foley went on record in his book that he had said he couldn't even remember a majority of that match. So when he was writing about it, he had to go back and watch the tape.
Yeah.
Because and of course, whenever you think of Mick Foley, that image kind of became iconic when he's in the corner. One tooth was busted out of his mouth and sticking out of his nostril, possibly cutting through one of his lips when that chair fell on him.
It was cutting right out of his lip.
He just had a look on his face like,
yeah, he was.
He had no idea where the fuck he was.
Yeah, and the thing was, like, if I remember right, when he took that fall, like, I think Undertaker like chokeslammed him through that, and they didn't think it was going to break away that easy. This is just flimsy as shit, and they're both like 300 pounds trying to stand on this thing.
That match was just one never-ending botch.
And then the thumbtacks.
Yep, which Mick pulled out. I mean, in Undertaker, he only got like a few thumbtacks in like one of his arms. Like Mick, he was the one that took the majority of the damage. First, you know, there's that whole thing of like they're building up the tension, like, oh shit, he's punching him. Is he gonna fall back? Nope. And then Undertaker slams him into it. Then choke slams him into it to a second time. He's got thumbtacks all over his back. They're in his boots. And yeah, and then finally, and the worst Undertaker had, I think, was at one point, Taker's laying there, and Mick puts the chair on him, does the leg drop on his face with the chair there. And, you know,
that never happens. Mick Foley got, like, no offense in this match. It was all just him getting hit. Mick Foley never did a leg drop, he never did a slam, he never did anything. It was all Mick Foley taking pain. And it's
the most famous squash match of all time.
It really is. It really is. And I can't watch WrestleMania 22's match again. I just can't watch it the whole way through. But I've seen this match at least 7 times. I've seen this over and over again because I can get past all the disturbing content and appreciate just how fascinating this match was. You can't explain this match in 1,000 words because it's much bigger than the story they're telling in the ring. The story they're telling? What story? The story is Mick Foley getting fucked in the ass by anything and everything around him multiple times. That is the story. It's the biggest match of his entire career, and out of every single match he's ever been in, out of every single wrestler he's ever worked with, that is the match that will follow him to his grave and for the rest of time.
Yeah, and again, it's like one of those things where it's like you wish you could hear the conversation that him and Taker had before they decided to go out there of like, yeah, then we'll do this. And like, I'm pretty sure at some point one of them was like, Taker most probably, you sure we should do this? Like, again, I still find it amazing that first fall was planned. That means that they discussed it and they decided, yeah, we'll do this. And Taker probably like, you know how high that is, right? Should we do this?
Undertaker was reportedly very, very nervous about this.
Why do you blame him?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm just happy that Mick survived. It's the only match I've ever seen where... It's the only match I've ever seen where I'm truly afraid of someone's livelihood. I've never seen a match like that. I mean, recently, the closest I've ever gotten was the Mil Muertes versus Phoenix Grave Consequences match from Lucha Underground about a month or 2 ago. That was the only other one, but that doesn't compare to Undertaker versus Mick Foley, Hell in a Cell match, King of the Ring, 1998.
I mean, how often do you see a guy get off a stretcher in a match?
Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. And
Dean Ambrose, Hell in a Cell this year.
Yeah,
Okay.
you actually see it quite often. But at the same time, the Daniel Bryan spot was bad, mostly because of Randy Orton at WrestleMania 30. Because at WrestleMania 30, Randy Orton, when he does the RKO onto the announce table, lands on one of the monitors that Batista, in all of his terrible ignorance, forgot to remove. So honestly, I thought the stretcher was for him when it came out. But Randy Orton, ever the trooper, he's one of the few that has taken the thumbtacks, by the way, kept going. And Daniel Bryan, ever the trooper in his matches currently, keeps going. And I'm pretty certain during all of these moments when the wrestlers take ridiculous spots and they keep going, they're looking at Mick Foley and, by greater extension, this match.
This match actually kind of has a bad effect on the wrestling community, because you know how CM Punk was like, what was the name of the guy who was like, what would he do in this situation? And that's why he kept going, and why he ignored the lump, and why he did all that other shit.
Ryback?
No, like the guy Harley Race. What would Harley Race do? And I feel like that's going to end up being the mantra for the next generations. Like, what would Mick Foley do? And just like, no, don't, like, have a little self-preservation, you bastards.
There is a generational gap going on right now. I remember it was someone saying that if you come into the locker room and don't like comic books, we're gonna have a problem. Like there is a big generation. I'm serious. There's a very big generational gap where a lot of the newer wrestlers coming in are nerds in one way or another. And a big part of this is why WWE's product is becoming so viral in memes and images and posts and all of these different things. Because it's easier for our generation to relate to the wrestlers because they're not all huge macho men. And even when they're billed that way, we know better. We know that Brock Lesnar, even though he's a legitimate badass, is probably the kind of guy that you'd like to go fishing with. Just based on his attitude and his mannerisms, you would like to go fishing on at a lake with Brock Lesnar, or you would like to have dinner in a movie with Daniel Bryan, or you'd like to go out and with all of these wrestlers and just talk about video games or comic books. So
for a second there, it sounded like you wanted to go on a date with these guys. Is there something you're not telling us? Do you have the hots for Daniel Bryan? Yes or no?
Who doesn't have the hots for Daniel Bryan? But
the whole comic book thing, the whole comic book thing, I could almost see the analogy of, like, you know, big buff dudes in spandex. Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, of course, a lot of the people, the kids, I should say, look at these wrestlers and think that they're superheroes. I mean, fucking Neville now comes out in a purple cape with awesome pyro and kick-ass theme music. I am so fucking high on Neville right now. Like, holy shit. Okay, that's a topic for another video, but I'm really liking the generational gap that's going on, because and Chris Jericho actually says it best. The product is the best it's ever been right now because the wrestlers don't have to go through the shit that Mick Foley did. Mick Foley went through what he did because he had to. He had to do those things because they had to beat WCW. And in the extreme kind of way, Mick Foley was the best weapon that they ever had. But even if other promotions start getting really, really big and to the point where they can legitimately compete with WWE, no wrestler is ever going to have to be extreme. We've moved away from that culture and gone to, okay, who's the better wrestler? Who's better on the mic? Who has the best gimmick? Who's just overall the most fun to watch? And that is how wrestling should be. We should not have to rely on massive amounts of blood and disgusting racy segments like bra and panties matches. I'm so fucking glad they're done away with those. I'm so happy that we judge wrestling and WWE and all of these other promotions not just on how ridiculous it can get. Even though when those moments happen, they're special, we judge it based on what counts, what matters.
Yeah, and it kind of brings me back once again to what I was kind of thinking about. I think it was Jim Cornette who was talking about ECW and the like when he was talking about how people in WWF, WWE, what have you, when they perform in the ring and stuff, they do all this high flying stuff, and they're the various stunts that they do. They show just how athletic and how in some cases strong they could be. When you lift a dude up almost effortlessly, or when you do a backflip off the top rope, all this crazy stuff, and it's not like, and nobody had to get busted open because of that. Whereas like ECW, it's like these guys just beat the shit out of each other, and it doesn't really seem like it doesn't seem as professional. It doesn't seem like the quality is there. It's a lot harder to do some of the stuff. Like you look at guys like John Morrison, who were very, very athletic, and the high flying dudes are the ones I think of most. You see these luchador guys, you see guys like John Morrison, you see Edge, doing backflip, and CM Punk as well. You see the clips of these guys, the jumps that they do, and the jumping like through the ropes in some cases. Like it's incredible to see that stuff. And at the same time, nobody had to get busted open, nobody had to get bloody. Just these guys literally using their entire body as a weapon almost. Just, it's amazing stuff.
Thankfully, we are living in a generation where people care about their health again, and they don't have to do it. And here's another thing. Even if, like you said, even if somebody gets really big, like now we're living in the day and age where, like, if there's two big wrestling promotions going on at the same time, you can be fans of both of them. There are outlets where you can find this stuff. Like, I'm a WWE fan and a Lucha Underground fan.
As am I.
Yeah, and I can find Lucha Underground videos and still watch the WWE stuff. Like, it even if they're on at the same time, you can DVR the shit now or TiVo it, and it still works. So we're not going to have to live in a generation where you can only be a fan of one. So the companies are going to go insane trying to get every last member of that demographic.
You know how much channel flipping I did back in the late 90s between WCW and WWF? It was kind of frustrating.
Sorry to interrupt. I think we're going on a little longer than we thought here.
This is a good conversation to have, honestly. However, Toon, you've been kind of quiet. Do you have anything you want to say about this?
Yeah. With you mean what we were talking about, brutal matches, or just in this conversation?
Just in this conversation with how the generational gap is affecting wrestling in both positive and negative ways. Like, as stupid as the product can get, at least the wrestlers themselves aren't all stuck pigs and douchebags,
I think it's really good now that we have so many people, like with the introduction of social media, you have wrestlers being able to show more of their not on-screen personas. With the generation gap now, like I said, with social media, it's really great to see past, a little bit of the personas that they put on it. You can look at Dolph Ziggler and say, yeah, his persona that he puts on is cool, but he seems like a really nice guy out of it. You get to see more behind the scenes stuff. We know more of how things are working back there. And I think that's pretty cool. Wrestling is very different now than it was back then. And I really wasn't a big fan of the gap at first, but I like how things are now. I like that they've limited themselves a bit, but they've managed to work around those set limitations. We're never going to get matches as brutal as the ones we've talked about now. We may get matches that are close to that, but they aren't going to be like the ones we've talked about here before. And I'm fine with that.
Like how many times we're going to see somebody go through a table on fire or off of a 16-foot cage.
Yeah, like seriously, do we really need that? It's nice to have once in a while, but between the years of 1998 and 2007, we got that shit all the time to the point where it became routine, so they had to keep one-upping each other. And there's only so many times you can watch a guy blade and it doesn't become special anymore. And when you have to literally bleed all over yourself and people are just like, oh, That's interesting. Wow, let's see what happens next. At that point, you have to go, enough is enough. Let's get back to the fucking basics. And WWE, as stupid as it can get at this point now, at least they are now not worrying so much about the extreme aspects. ECW did a lot for the wrestling business, but the one thing I'm happy that I can say good riddance to is the ridiculous amount of extreme stuff.
Yeah, because I think even you had mentioned it before with some of these matches we were talking about. You find them hard to watch because you're genuinely concerned about the well-being of some of those individuals that are in there.
Yeah, I was the I was the extremist of this group. Like, I was the one who kind of grew up on ECW. And there were times when I thought, oh shite, these guys are dead men walking. And thankfully, even though Lucha Underground does get into kind of insane moments like that, but at least now I'm not laying in bed at night going, oh god, is Johnny Mundo going to make it to the ring next week?
Yeah, I never do that. I think the Grave Consequences match was the most extreme that they've ever gotten. I haven't seen the last couple of episodes. I really should catch up. Well, it's hard to catch up because word to the wise for Lucha Underground fans, don't read their Wikipedia page. Spoilers. For example,
yes.
I already know who wins the Trios Championship tournament.
I accidentally spoiled myself on that too.
I may have accidentally put that in the chat of the group. Sorry, guys.
Anyway, guys, this was a good podcast. I don't know how to end this. I like this conversation, though, that we're having. I like that we can speak positive about WWE for once.
Yeah, they got something right. So.
After WrestleMania, I think they're starting to fix things a little bit. We've been complaining about WWE for quite a while. We were almost thinking of freaking quitting up until WrestleMania, but WrestleMania has kind of reignited a bit of our hope. And I think that's really good that they were able to do that.
For example, remember how everybody was really, really afraid when they said Neville was going to be brought up with a Mighty Mouse gimmick? Well, he's got the Mighty Mouse gimmick, and it's fucking awesome!
He really is.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They aren't, making him look like a fucking joke. They're making him look like the greatest thing ever. I'll be honest with you. Before he made the jump up, I thought that his ceiling was Rob Van Dam level. He was going to be the Rob Van Dam of this generation. The flippy shit guy, crazy strong, crazy nimble. Maybe he would be a solid fixture in the Intercontinental title and the tag team title picture. Maybe once or twice in his career he'd win the world title. This guy, he now has a ceiling that can't be viewed from the ground floor. Let's put it that way. He could be the next guy.
It makes me happy because you look at all of the NXT call-ups, you look at people like Bo Dallas and Rusev and Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose and all of these people. There are two people currently where their position is rock solid and you know that no matter where they go, they're going to have bright futures. Seth Rollins and Neville. Those are the NXT call-ups that you need to be looking at.
Did you know it? They're the two longest reigning NXT champions of all time.
WWE is very high on them. I can see Hideo Itami doing fairly well. They're going to need a good gimmick for him, though. They're going to have to work really hard on that gimmick for him.
Don't make him just the Japanese guy, please.
Yeah, Finn Balor is very questionable. I don't know what they're going to do with him. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, though, both of them will be doing just fine when they get called up. You don't have to worry about them. They will be just fine.
Wow, we went off on a really far tangent.
It was a fun tangent, though. Anyway,
we talked about the most brutal matches of all time. Then we talked about the generation gap, and then the social media stuff. Now we're talking about the levels that the NXT call-ups are gonna hit.
We can end this when somebody gets cut open, goes through a Fleming table, and off a 16-foot cage.
All right, Nikki, come here.
Oh, shit!
No!
And there he goes. 1, 2, 3. I am the new champion. Fuck you and a podcast.
The light's getting dim.